going on, guys? Jack here, founder of the Executive Body Standard. Back with another video today. I am talking all about stress and why and how stress kills performance and what you can do as a recovery guide to reduce your stress levels and to boost up your performance in all aspects of life, but particularly when it comes to your fitness journey. It's fair to say in today's modern world, there is a stress epidemic, right? The pressures of the modern lifestyle when it comes to work, when it comes to the general kind of geopolitical and economic environment, and also when it comes down to even things like this, right? Social media. We tend to live, we are living in a fairly high stress age. A high stress lifestyle is predominant, seems to be getting worse, okay? This video is all about why that's important. That's something that we really need to keep an eye on if we're serious about progressing when it comes to fitness or really any aspect in life, work, etc. as well. What are the telltale signs of it? The telltale signs that you are experiencing high stress, that potentially your stress levels are higher than they should be. And most importantly, what you can do to counteract that, to bring them back down to baseline and therefore get a performance boost off the back of it. So if you're someone that feels particularly high stress, if you're someone that's constantly walking around with anxiety in a fairly high stress state, this one is for you. Okay, so first of all, I just want to talk about and lay out a key differentiating factor when it comes to stress. And there are different types of stress, okay? So first of all, we have acute stress. And what is acute stress? Acute stress is a short-term spike fueled by a spike in cortisol, a spike in adrenaline, a short-term spike into a stress state in response to some short-term threat, some short-term stimulus that we are experiencing. So it might be that you're about to enter into a race or a competition. It might be that you're actually under threat in some kind of way. It could be like even in from a work or study perspective, like you've got an exam coming up, etc. You're about to walk into exam hall, performance anxiety. Acute stress is that body's natural response that you get to an emerging short-term perceived threat. And it can actually be very beneficial from a performance perspective. What that spike in adrenaline and that spike in cortisol does is boost our focus, boost our strength, and mobilize energy around the body in order to enable us to perform better in that short moment, against that short-term threat that we are encountering or experiencing. Okay, that is very different to chronic stress, okay? Chronic stress is a long-term and continuous activation of the body's stress response. And what it really comes from is sustained pressures. So it could be, for example, overworking or having too much on your plate from a work perspective. It could also be under recovery, not enough sleep. Overtraining to a degree can invoke an overwork state as well. Or an emotional strain or heightened emotional strain to some issues or issues that you're having with with the relationships in your life. Now, what this tends to mean is that cortisol levels are raised far too long in the body, which can actually hamper things like recovery, can make inflammation within the body worse, can make us feel overly tired and fatigued, and ultimately impair our performance. And over time, what can this do from a fitness perspective? It can blunt muscle growth. It can actually play havoc with our hormone levels as well, and our testosterone levels within men in particular. And of course, the most obvious one is dampen sleep quality. Everyone knows, kind of anecdotally, and has probably experienced it to a degree, not being able to sleep consistently through the night or fall asleep if you are in a chronically stressed state. So in short, acute stress can be beneficial to us in the short term in response to a threat or response to a challenge that's emerging, but it's chronic stress that's the issue. It's chronic stress that we need to watch out for. If we're experiencing chronic stress, we need to start putting in place some mechanisms to bring that back down to baseline. Okay, so what are some signs then that you are chronically stressed, that you are in potentially an elevated, permanently or continuously elevated stressful state? Because you might not necessarily feel like it or be able to relate to that feeling, particularly if you've been in a state for an extended period of time. So first of all, if you are doing everything right from a training perspective, if you are doing everything right from a nutritional perspective, but you are really struggling to make muscle gains in the gym, or to make a change to see a change to your physique off the back of the weight training that you're doing. If you are eating in a calorie deficit, eating correctly, really watching your food, but you are struggling to see that weight come down consistently or respond to the effort you're putting in, that could be a sign that stress is playing a factor, that stress is hampering your ability to progress. If you are someone that does experience poor sleep, if you are someone that wears a wearable and has noticed that their resting heart rate is elevated, this could also be a sign that you are entering into that state. If you are particularly irritable or notice that your irritability has increased, you are caffeine dependent or becoming increasingly caffeine dependent to either fuel your motivation through the day despite all the effort that you're putting in, or even just to get you moving, then again, this could be a sign that you're starting to rely on those external factors, because that chronically high stress state is really starting to play with your energy levels, causing a degree of fatigue within yourself and lowering down or limiting your ability to put effort in and pursue your goals. So if you're experiencing these things, what do we do about it, right? What is the cure? What is going to bring us back down to baseline from a chronically stressed perspective? Okay, and the answer really sits in our recovery. Okay, and I feel like I say it in every video. Recovery is king. Recovery is number one. We should always pay attention to our recovery, our body's ability to recover first. First of all, we need to really look at our quality of sleep. Okay, we should all be setting as a minimum target for ourselves 7 to 9 hours of good quality, deep sleep per night. So creating an optimal environment to enable us to fall to sleep, to get into this state is the first step that we should look to undertake to help fuel this turnaround and return us back to baseline from a stress-induced state. So I like to start with a kind of pre-sleep ritual if I feel stress creeping in. There's steps that we can do to help us wind down, to get ready for bed and to prime ourselves for a deep sleep. So a couple of easy steps: reducing blue light exposure 60 to 90 minutes before sleep. Making sure we're sleeping in a cool environment, 18 to 20 degrees is the optimum. And when we wake up, and making sure that our sleeping times are as consistent as possible and our wake times are as consistent as possible is going to give us a kind of baseline around our sleeping pattern to really cement that in place. Equally, in the morning when we wake up, exposure to blue light, it's 7 a.m. now, I'm up, I'm outside straight away, getting exposure to blue light for 15 to 20 minutes is going to support the upregulation of our circadian rhythm and help to energize us when we wake up in the morning. Caffeine should also be limited, or we should watch what we're doing with it from a caffeine perspective as well, okay? Your body has a natural wake-up cycle. Your adenosine system kicks in and wakes your brain up, acts on your brain, on the receptors within your brain to naturally wake you up from an hour to 90 minutes after you wake. So avoiding caffeine during this time is going to help your body to wake up naturally, stop you getting jitters and stop you crashing later on in the day and inducing cortisol spikes. Likewise, cutting it out, and I know it's difficult, 8 hours before bed is going to help that caffeine to get out of your system, for it to downregulate into its half-life and to stop it interfering, not just through falling asleep, but falling into a deep sleep later on that night. From a nutritional perspective, we should have a well-rounded diet, but there's one thing that I just want to touch on as well, which is the role in carbs. Now, carbs actually can help to blunt cortisol spikes. So if you time your carbs correctly around training, around high stress activity, or high stress moments within the day, this can actually help to downregulate your body's fight or flight reaction to those events. And another little tool that's potentially useful to throw in, it's something that I've found actually works really well for myself. And anecdotally, I know others have told me how well it works for them as well, is to pay attention to your breathing or breath work, or to incorporate this into your routine in some kind of way. I tend to do this in the sauna, actually, so it combines with that natural recovery benefit of the sauna. I found that works really well for me. In your breath work, being present, and inducing a state of mindfulness can and has been proven to work as a stress response. A couple of protocols that can be tried: 4-second inhale versus a 6-second exhale, not outhale. A double inhale followed by a longer exhale, continuing this in a repetitive fashion to help calm your body down. And also from a training perspective as well, if you have noticed that you are in this high stress state, you should adapt your training slightly to support you in reducing it back down. It's not detrimental. It's actually going to work you to the positive, because your progress is going to be blunted while you're dealing with a high stress state anyway. So what we should focus on keeping is intensity rather than volume when we're in this state. We really want to induce novelty-induced fatigue and avoid overburning our body and contribute into a catabolic state and contribute into cortisol spikes through our training. So keeping weight on the bar but avoiding excessively long sessions, for example, is going to support us to maintain what progress we've made and boost on top of it, and even try and progress on those numbers slightly without burning out, which is the key. If you've noticed that your progress has been stalling for a period of time or even moving backwards, despite everything you've doing, if you've gone consistent weeks with the weight falling on the bar, or you're just finding that you can do less and less week on week, this might actually be a good time for a deload as well. Now, my definition of a deload, and I know there's lots of conflicting definitions out there, is 80% of the weight for each exercise that you're doing and 80% of the volume within the workout is the protocol. So I'll drop my workload for the session back by 80% and roll back the weight that I'm doing by 20% as well. I won't just slash exercises out. I won't just like kind of halve the weight and go through the motions. I'm still training with a degree of intensity, but I'm taking that final push, that final real hurdle to overcome out of the equation to give my body a chance to recover. And of course, and it's always a good best practice to incorporate this in, but spending that additional time that we're saving, focusing on our mobility, which is a nice and calming activity that is good for our body's recovery. Focusing, if we're doing cardio, on steady state zone 2 low stress cardio is also going to support our body's ability to recover, to calm down and return to a baseline from a chronically stressed state. Just to layer on top of all this, if you are doing all this, there are a couple of rituals that I like to throw in there that I do recommend to my clients to execute on, not just from a stress-based perspective, but also from a recovery perspective as well. So I've made videos before about hot and cold therapy, sauna and cold plunge. They do absolutely have a role to play when it comes to regulating stress. So incorporating those into your routine is only going to help you and support you on that journey. Things like a tech shutdown or factoring in and allowing yourself a window of time away from technology, which could be contributing to your stress levels. So smartphones, social media, laptops, whatever it might be, is also going to support you and give you the break that you need to allow that anxiety, allow that stress to dissipate. What I actually do every morning is journal. I find journaling really helps me. It helps me to be mindful. It helps me to be present. And it's something that I've found has helped combat high stress for myself as well. And of course, if you are someone that lives in the city, that's like me. For the last 12, 13 years, I have lived in London and now Dubai. Sometimes it is just the environment that gets too much, and finding a way, and it might sound like almost nonsense to some people, but it is true and it is scientifically backed as well. Finding a way to be present amongst nature, even if it's just getting in a park and getting around greenery. If you can get out of the city, get out of the city. Finding a way to reset does and will help you to reduce and dissipate some of this stress that you're feeling. Okay, guys, if you are someone that is experiencing high stress, good luck. I hope these points are useful. Do look to address it. Do look to regulate it down. Don't ignore it. Simply for the fact that if you are serious about progressing from a fitness perspective, this is hampering you and tying. It's like operating with hands tied behind your back, not to mention the facts of how it can impact just your general mood, your general happiness from a day-to-day life perspective. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this useful. If you did, give the video a like. Please do give the channel a subscribe. We are trying to grow the channel, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.